Uh, in terms of the solution, there are intensive provided by the government and policies, at least in 6 countries. So this is actually a good progress in terms of 8 out of 12 countries in West Asia are using intensive to promote cleaner production, energy efficiency, and pollution. This is also actually in line with the meeting the climate change target. So energy efficiency is not just for air quality, but also for the climate change. On the transport sector, 2 countries actually have stronger standard than the Euro 4. Then almost 6 countries have Euro 4 standard equivalent. 2 countries, yeah, actually 2 countries, with green is better than Euro 4, and blue is Euro 4, and red is less than Euro 4. So almost all the countries have standard for transport. On the transport, actually, another key issue is the sulfur content. In many countries, very high sulfur content. It's still one country have sulfur content more than 500 ppm, because sulfur content is important because if we want to reduce particulate matter, we had to fix one option is to fix particulate filter. But in order to fix particulate filter, first there should be low sulfur in the fuel. So that's actually kind of a precondition for putting particulate filter. So most of the countries, 50% of the countries have less than 500 ppm. 100 has more than 500, but many countries we don't have data. In terms of waste management, this is also one of the important source of air pollution, and also unintentional fogs. One of the important source of unintentional fog. So burning of solid waste is strictly restricted in 3 countries, is regulated in 3 more countries, is not regulated in 1 country, and many countries we still don't have data. So this is also an area that our region needs to focus on, regulating waste burning. Household sources, there are national programs to promote clean energy in at least 50% of the countries. Then solution for agricultural sources, there are actually 6 countries, they have the intention to promote agricultural emission reduction from agricultural sources. Then the national air quality standard strategies and legislation. This is very, very important actually. This is the document that put everything together in the form of strategies, and that will help to develop a legislation for controlling air quality. So only 2 countries have legislation, the strategies, and 1 country is under approval. So this is actually most important things for the region to actually coordinate all the air quality related activities at the national level. So basically, this is the support we are providing. This is the system actually that the emission come from the emission sources, then the transport into a different area, then at the research that give the impact, then the impact assessment, then based on the impact assessment, there's a need to develop strategies and standards to control pollution that will target the emission sources. So this is a circular activity actually. This is the area where we intervene, and this is where we monitor to know the concentration of the air pollution. This is the area we do the assessment of health impact on crop, and impact on even there are impact of air pollution and tourism. So in almost all the areas, we actually developing guidelines. this is part of a GCC project to support the GCC countries on these areas. And also the national air quality strategies. And we also actually had a training program on national air quality standard. Those who know that the WHO has received recently a new air quality standard guideline, actually, WHO issue guideline that is more stringent than the guideline, the old guideline that was published in 2005. So after several years, WHO has updated its air quality guideline. So that should also be taken into consideration and developing the national strategies. So particularly in Palestine, actually, we are just concluding a strategy. We are working very closely with the Palestinian authorities to come up with a Palestinian pathway to clean air. Then we also support developing air quality monitoring in Palestine. So one of the objective of the strategy that we just developed is to strengthen the air quality monitoring because we have been working very closely with the Palestinian authorities on this one, and there's not much of data actually in Palestine on air quality. Although the air quality is felt, the bad air quality, but there's not much data on the air quality. So we try to support some initial monitoring and to understand where Palestine is in terms of air quality. So thank you very much. So that's all from me. I hope I managed in my time. So if any question, I only have to answer.
Thank you, Yangarasan. You are on time. So if there is any discussion, please raise your hand and I will give the floor for 5 minutes discussion. So if there is any intervention, please raise your hand and you can ask. Roland, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Ingara, for your insights. I mean, to measure this particulate matter is relatively complicated. So how is this done in the region? I mean, who is doing the measurements or providing the equipment for the measurements and is doing capacity building? Because you said there are some measurements, right?
Yes, actually the particulate matter is very complicated, especially for this region because of the dust storms event. So the nearly, in some studies says nearly 50% of the dust storm, I mean 50% of the particulate matter come from the dust sources. In terms of who monitor, at the national level, it is mostly the National Environment Agencies responsible for monitoring air quality. So for example, the EQA in Palestine is actually monitoring the air quality, is responsible. And in terms of the capacity building support, it depends on the project that we have some project to support capacity building. So that's through that project. Currently, we are supporting actually Palestine to establish air quality monitoring. Unfortunately, there's no air quality monitoring now. So we're just starting to establish some work in Palestine. So it's a huge area. I mean, long-term activities actually, because, you know, people used to say stopping a monitoring station is a crime because we discontinue the data. It's not the one-day data. We need to know the time series data to make any meaningful decision. So continuous monitoring is very important. And many countries actually, mostly the GCC countries have very good monitoring network operated by the government agencies. But non-GCC countries, due to lack of financial support, is not very good actually. But GCC countries in which it has very good monitoring network.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
I couldn't see any more hand over here. So, okay, then I think we can start with today's session.